Recently re-elected Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is seen on both sides of the aisle as Trump's likely successor as head of the GOP. But while he may still be an up-and-comer, his ascension to GOP fame was a long time coming. I'm Yasmin Khan with The Breakdown, and in between his time attending Yale and Harvard Law School, a young Ron DeSantis taught history at a private boarding school in Rome, Georgia. He was charismatic and well-bred, and according to some, a little cocky and convinced that he was special.
Honestly, it's not doing anything, and we got to stop with this COVID theater. You do not have to wear those masks. I mean, please take them off. Honestly, it's not doing anything, and we got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
None of this is particularly incriminating, but it does shed some light on a public figure that doesn't really have much of a public personality apart from what I can only assume is a very carefully crafted right-wing caricature. Now, as the GOP looks to finally escape from the grasp of Trumpism, DeSantis is in the spotlight as never before. So naturally, stories from his past are starting to creep into the national conversation, with Fox News and the New York Post and other notable right-wing figures and outlets dumping Trump, blaming him for the red wave that never was, and looking to DeSantis to lead the party into the future. It's clear from recounted tales of days past that DeSantis always had his eye on the biggest prize, the presidency. However, the fact that DeSantis spent time as an educator is particularly interesting given a 2022 lens. In recent years, we've seen the GOP attack the public school system as a matter of policy, with attacks that range from banning books to accusing teachers of being groomers and indoctrinating their children with anti-white ideologies to the Don't Say Gay bill. Florida has been a prime battleground for these attacks, with Ron DeSantis behind many of these initiatives. Now, with his former students speaking out, we can see that DeSantis is nothing if not consistent. Now, one of the things that's interesting about all of this, though, is that he actually spent time as an educator. You would think that he'd have a little bit more compassion for the plight of teachers, but according to the accounts from his former students, DeSantis didn't seem to think much of his role as an educator while he was in it. They suggest that DeSantis didn't view his stint at their school as much more than a stint, a stepping stone on the way to much, much bigger things like, for instance, the presidency. But things get weird when his former students admit that while DeSantis was generally well-liked by his students and colleagues at the school, he became well-known for his controversial takes on history, specifically the Civil War, something that should strike a chord with anyone familiar with his current anti-CRT rhetoric. Not only were some of his takes controversial, for instance, the classic, "The Civil War wasn't fought over slavery, it was about economics" argument, but students recall some of his lessons being simply infactual. He also liked to play devil's advocate on issues where the devil hardly ever needs an advocate. And by the way, nobody likes that guy because they're just trying to prove to people that they're smarter than everyone else because they think they came up with an original, albeit horrible thought. Being contrarian doesn't make you smart. In this case, one of his former students said of his Civil War lesson, quote, "He was trying to play devil's advocate that the South had good reason to fight that war, to kill other people over owning people, black people. He was trying to say, it's not okay to own people, but they had property, businesses." That but's never fun. He also expressed his disapproval for abortion in one of his classes. Not sure how or why that came up in a history classroom, but it did. But the strangest part of this whole story were the allegations that DeSantis, who was in his early 20s at the time, used to go to high school parties to the point that the school had to remind the staff that fraternizing with students was inappropriate even after they've graduated. As far as we know, nothing happened beyond DeSantis attending high school parties, but that on its own is a little creepy. Personally, I didn't do much partying back when I was in high school, but if I did, and one of our teachers showed up, I don't think I would have stayed very long. One student said, "As an 18-year-old, I remember thinking, what are you doing here, dude?" Now, the reason why this tidbit is particularly interesting is because today, DeSantis is in many ways the head of the anti-public school movement, the anti-indoctrination movement, the movement where the concerned government needs to work closely with concerned parents to protect innocent and impressionable children from their ungodly woke teachers. And it's tricky because sure, every parent should be concerned about what their kids are being taught in school and who by. Every parent wants their kids to have the best education they can have, and every parent hopes that their children gets good teachers. But you can't micromanage an entire nation of teachers. They're trying to litigate education as a way of policing education, as a way of using a governmental system to enforce a regressive and faith-based ideology on an entire population and an entire generation. That method will never work, though. They'll never run out of things to complain about, to criminalize, or to outlaw. They'll keep hacking away at a system that's supposed to thrive on thoughts that are rooted in facts, and they'll continue to hold teachers up to impossible standards in the name of protecting the students while failing to meet those standards themselves. So which is creepier, a teacher at a high school party or a teacher that just happens to be a member of the LGBTQ community in their private lives? I suppose that's a matter of opinion, and I suppose many people on the right would argue for the latter, but personally, as someone who was once a girl in high school, a teacher at a party would have thrown up all of my red flags. All right, that's it for me. If you got something out of this, please like and subscribe, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok.